Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Casey Coleman, physical therapist and co-founder of Pre-PT Grind. And on this mic drop mentorship, I want to talk to you guys about what's really stopping you from getting accepted into physical therapy school. What's really at the basis? What's really at the foundation? What's underlying all this stuff that we really think is stopping us from getting into physical therapy school? But before I do that, let's talk about the podcast real quick. Let's talk about the podcast. Oh my gosh, Shanahan, all the time, just on it. What's going on, man? Let's get it. Mic drop. That's what I'm talking about. Thanks for joining, Shanahan. Who else we got? Karen, thanks for joining. What's going on, Cody? So I want to talk to you guys about what's really going on underneath what we think is stopping us from getting into physical therapy school. We think it's this, we think it's that, GRE, stats, GPA, all that good stuff. Let's really talk about the underlying concept. So the podcast, yeah, Cody, always about the podcast. So we're doing something new. We're adding something to the podcast. We're adding call-ins to the podcast. We're adding call-ins to the podcast, not this week, but the following week. If you guys listen to the podcast this week, you'll hear me talking about how you guys can call in. We recently switched over to Anchor, like, on a boat, ANCHOR. We've recently switched our podcast over to Anchor, and now what that allows us to do is to have you guys send us voice messages in forms of questions. You guys can record your voice, send us in the app, in the Anchor app, voice messages to Pre-PT Grind. We can put those in the podcast, then we can answer them in real time, put it in the podcast, and push it out to the Pre-PT world, and you'll get your question answered on the podcast. It's dope. It's gonna be so cool. And it's just going to add another piece of value to your journey, just to give you that extra edge, that extra boost to get into PT school. So that's super cool. At the end of each episode, we're going to take about the best one or two questions that you guys send in through voice messages. If you're comfortable with it, we'll put that on the podcast, then we'll answer it in real time and push the podcast out. So if you want to be featured on a podcast, if you want to hear your voice, if you want to be out there, what's going on, Elise, then send us a message on the podcast. I'll put a link below after I finish this live stream, but you'll go to Anchor, you'll follow us on Anchor, but you have to do this through the app. So you do have to get Anchor through the app. Just go to your app store, Google, iTunes, whatever it is. Anchor is pretty much on everything. Just go to Anchor, download it, then find us on Anchor Podcast. Just type in Pre-PT Grind, just like iTunes and this and that, and you'll find us. Follow us, and you can send us a voice message. So we're going to take the best one or two questions each week, then put them on the podcast. So if you say we're doing a podcast about one school or the GRE or GPA, you can say, hey, I listened to your podcast last week. Man, I have a question about this and that. Then we'll answer it on that following week's podcast. So it's super cool. If you guys have questions about it, always hit us up. But I'm excited about this. I listen to podcasts all the time and was always like, man, how does this work? How do people call in? That would be super cool. And now we actually have the opportunity to do it. So I'm excited to hear your guys' questions, and we're excited to answer. So that's the podcast. But on this mic drop mentorship, let's talk about really what's stopping us from getting into physical therapy school. We think it's the GPA. We think it's the GRE. Oh man, they didn't get my letters of recommendation in on time. Oh, I didn't know how to write the essay. Oh, no school really wanted me. Man, I didn't have the location. Man, this and that, excuses. And hey, before you get mad at me, I was the one with excuses. Remember, I didn't get accepted on the first time. I had all the excuses in the world. Like, man, that student isn't even better than me. They're not a better applicant. If I had only known this, if I had applied earlier, if I had just a better grade, if I got 0.5 better on this test, if I got an A- instead of a B+, I was the one with the excuses. So I know you guys have them because I had them as a pre-PT. So we really think it's that. We really think it's the actions that we've been doing. I could have did better on that grade. I could have did this. I could have did that. We really think it's the actions. Then some of us who are smart or maybe thinking a little ahead of ourselves, maybe like, no, it's our behaviors. No, my habits weren't right. My this wasn't right. My that wasn't right. And yes, we're on the right track. But underneath all of that, what's going on, Jessica? Thanks for joining. What's underneath all of that is really your beliefs. It's really your beliefs, because your beliefs lead to how you behave. Then how you behave leads to your actions. Then your actions lead to your outcomes. So a lot of us really focus on that action and outcome part, and some of us focus on that behavior part. We really think, man, I got to do this in order to get into PT school. And yes, obviously you do. I have to do that in order to get, yes. Oh, I have to behave a separate way. And yes. But underneath all of that, let's keep chopping away at this. Let's get to the bottom of all of this. It's really our beliefs, because our beliefs lead to our what? Behaviors. Our behaviors lead to what? Our actions. Our actions then lead to our outcomes. Whether it's as a pre-PT, as a PT student, as a physical therapist, as a patient, as a clinic director, regional director, publications, whatever you are, it's all the same thing. So it really goes on like this. If you really have the belief like, man, my GPA is too low. Man, I'll never get in because my GPA is too low. That's your belief. Then your behaviors are going to match that. Man, my GPA is, too low that I won't even get into PT school. So I won't even behave like I can get in. Then your action's going to follow this. Man, I don't even need to study for this test. I'm not going to get into PT school anyway because my GPA is too low. And boom, you don't end up getting into PT school because it all started with your belief that you weren't going to get in. Man, I'll never be good at the GRE. I suck at standardized tests. I've never been good at standardized tests. My family never graduated high school. Who am I to get a great score on the GRE? That's your belief. Then your behaviors will follow. Man, I'll never even buy a Kaplan book. I'll never even buy Magoosh. I'll never even ask people how to do stuff. Because, man, I suck at the GRE anyways. I suck at standardized tests anyways. Then your actions follow. You never even study. You never even go to the library. You never even crack open a book. Then your outcomes match up to that. You don't even get a good score, or you don't even take it and you don't even apply. Or your score sucks that you don't get in anyway. So that's your beliefs. Or it might be your parents. Be like, oh, you're not smart enough to get into PT school. Maybe you should pick a different career. Physical therapy isn't a real doctor. I want you to do this. I want you to do that. If you believe that, it will follow suit and therefore. Oh, my prereqs are expired. Well, I guess I can never get in anyways. So your behaviors are going to match that. You're never even going to look for a school that takes those classes. You're never even going to go to that next step of putting those actions in to find a community college to retake those classes, or not even be serious about it and retaking them. Then your outcomes will follow. It all follows this pattern. It all follows this pattern. Man, I have a family, I have 2 kids, I'm changing careers, I never have enough time. Since I don't have enough time, I guess I'll just watch the game instead of, getting into the accepted system and putting myself on the right track in order for my actions to follow that and for me to get into PT school. Your brain is a supercomputer, and your self-talk is the software. So what are you putting in your mind? What are you putting in your supercomputer? Is it a virus? Or is it Linux? Or is it whatever HP thing, software they have going on? Is it good stuff or is it bad stuff? What are you putting in your supercomputer to get you into PT school? What are you downloading in your brain in order so your beliefs are set up right, so your behaviors and actions and outcomes follow? It's really that simple. If you say you're not good enough, you will not be good enough. If you say you won't get into PT school, you won't. If you say your GPA will never rise, it won't. If your GRE will never get better, it won't. If you say this and that, I have too many kids, I don't have time, I don't have this, it will follow and it will show. So many of us focus on those last two, your outcomes and your actions. Your outcomes and your actions. We focus on that. Man, what is it about this? Why am I not doing this? I can't do this and that. And then I'm not getting into PT school, when we really have to chop down those layers to really find out what's really under it. Is it your self-talk? Is it your family? Is it you just don't believe you can do it? Do you think it's too hard? Do you see everybody else failing around you? Do you see everybody else winning, but you think it can't be you? Do you see everybody else winning, but you don't know how to do it? What is it? You got to break that down and figure out what's really at the bottom of this. Because if you don't figure out what's at the bottom, all those next steps can't follow suit. It's all about a winning mindset. Man, Karen, let me tell you something. I used to scoff at this mindset thing so bad. If any of you are watching, listening on podcasts, YouTube, Instagram, I used to be that guy like, man, Come on, get out of here with that cliche stuff. Mindset this, mindset that. Come on now. I'm better than that. I'm more man than that. I don't need this. I don't need to. Just tell me what to do. Tell me how to do it. I'll do it. I'll get it done by myself. I don't need no help. I'm fine. I'll do it. I'll be good. When it really took a turn is when I understood all of this. When I really changed the mindset, because the mindset is that supercomputer. And I wasn't putting that good stuff into my hard drive. I didn't have good software. Then when I changed this mindset, I've talked about it on many other videos before. Once I had that click, everything else followed. Once I had that click and didn't get accepted the first time, that lit a fire under me. That put new software in my hard drive. And then ever since then, I've been on a warpath. If I didn't have the right mindset, I wouldn't have Pre-PT Grind. I wouldn't be wearing this shirt. I wouldn't be on this video. Karen, Judy, Cody, Pepe, Jakari, Jessica, Carl, I would not know any of you. You guys would not be watching this. There would not be a pre-doctor of physical therapy students group if I did not change that mindset. And this is coming from a guy who hated that stuff. Thought it was so lame, thought it was so whack. But once I did it, got into PT school, publications director at New Grad PT, pre-PT Grind, multiple offers on a job, this and that, passed the MPTE, flying colors the first time. If I didn't change that back then, I don't know where I'd be right now. So if you were like me, if there's a younger version of me, like we talk about on the podcast, watching this, are you scoffing at it or are you taking it seriously? If you are, that's fine. It'll take time. I didn't change over just like that, but this is so important. This is so important because a lot of you are stuck. A lot of you are stuck and can't get through it. And you're like, man, why do I keep doing the same thing over and over again? Why don't I want to do something different? Why don't I trust these guys with helping me? Why don't this and that? Why do I just want to watch TV? Why do I just want to play video games? Why do I not want to get off my ass and start doing some stuff that's going to set me in the right path? And maybe it's because you haven't chopped down all of this to get what's underlying all of that. Maybe you haven't got to your belief systems that you can do it so that your actions follow that. Then you get into PT school. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's not. But I know for a lot of you, it probably is because it was for me. So it all starts with your beliefs. Then your behaviors follow. Then your actions follow that. Then your outcomes change. So if you think you're not good enough to get into PT school, your behaviors will follow, your actions follow that, then you won't get into PT school anyway. If you think your GPA is too low, it will be too low. If you think you suck at the GRE and you can never get a higher score, you won't. If you think nobody's out there to help you, everybody's after you, nobody goes through the same struggles as you, you will never find a community. You will never even open yourself up to allow yourself to listen to someone to give you the right help to get into physical therapy school. It's just like that down the line. So maybe you have to look in the mirror. Maybe it might take a few days for this to set in. Maybe you have to do some self-thought or some self-talk and figure out what's really going on under all of this stuff. Under all the stress, under your job, under working out, under getting groceries, under all the busy stuff of life. What's really holding you back from getting in? It might be your beliefs. Just check it out. Give it a try. See if it really is. And if it is, reach out to us and see how that can change. See how we can possibly help you to get into physical therapy school. Because I know I can call a lot of you my colleagues. I know I want to call a lot of you fellow doctors of physical therapy. I'm in the profession now, and I know from seeing your drive, seeing your guys' messages, seeing you guys watching the videos, that I want you guys, I want people like you to be my colleagues. I want people like you to be in the profession. And I don't want just somebody, some guidance counselor, some advisor, some other videos, some people saying stats on Student Doctor Network, making you feel discouraged like you can't do it when I know you can. When I know that we need people like you in the profession. So, check it out. Get into your head a little bit. Do some self-searching. See if it's really your beliefs holding you back. And if it is, we can be the ones to help you change that and ultimately get you into physical therapy school. Because if you're saying you're not good enough, you won't be good enough. Your brain is a supercomputer. Start downloading some great software to make sure that computer does what you want it to do. So That's pretty much it. I want you to understand that it's really your beliefs that may be stopping you from getting into physical therapy school. So give it a try. Again, podcast. We just changed over to Anchor. And now that gives you guys the ability to call in to the show. So you have to download the Anchor app. You do have to download the Anchor app. Samsung, Android, iPhone, doesn't matter. Download the Anchor app. Follow us on Anchor. You guys can send us a voice message. Send your questions in a voice message. Then we can put those voice messages on the podcast. Then we can answer those on the podcast, and we can send it out to the world, and you'll hear your voice on the podcast, and you will get your answer right there. So we're going to take the best 1 or 2 questions from that previous week's podcast, put it on the next podcast, and it's going to be super cool. I'm super excited about this. I told you guys at the beginning, I listen to podcasts all the time and heard call-ins from different listeners. And I'm like, man, that would be so dope if we could just have our audience call in and send us messages, but I didn't know how it works. Now we figured it out. We are on Anchor. Make sure you follow us there. Anchor/Pre-PT Grind. Just go to Anchor, type us in, download the Anchor app, type us in. You'll find us. You guys know how to work the internet. And send us your questions. Send us your questions. We're going to take the best 1 or 2, answer them on the podcast, and we'll send it out. So that'll be super cool. That is going on. Make sure you listen to it this Wednesday. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram. Tell your friends and family about us, your classmates, all that good stuff, because we want to help you get into PT school without wasting time or money. That's what we're all about. So I hope you enjoyed this Mic Drop Mentorship. Remember, your beliefs lead to your behaviors, lead to your actions, that ultimately lead to your outcomes that will get you into physical therapy school. So that was another Mic Drop Mentorship. Follow us on everything Pre-PT Grind and get a t-shirt while you're at it. And we'll see you on the next Pre-PT Chat or Mic Drop Mentorship. See you guys later.